just around the corner from this peaceful view. 20-year-old Jamani Parker was found shot near the Greenway a month ago today.
I couldn't imagine walking out here with my children and seeing something like that.
A U.S. Army Corps of Engineer employee found Parker. She was taken to the hospital where she died.
This was where the body of Jamina was trashed, as if she meant nothing. It was a shocking discovery. 20-year-old Jamani Parker thought she was living a double life that would help her survive college. By day, she was a student at Tennessee State University, trying to make it through school like thousands of other young people. But she had a secret that she kept hidden from everyone who loved her most. That secret eventually cost her everything. On August 18, 2024, Jamani's body was found in this wooded area in Nashville, Tennessee. She had been shot and dumped like she was nothing. And who was responsible? Her secret boyfriend, 35-year-old Lavelle Winton Jones, who was old enough to be her father with a criminal history that she never knew about. We're going to reveal how this shocking story happened, how she was found, and what happened thereafter. So stay with us. Welcome to our channel. Every day, young women like Jamani Parker walk through life unaware that someone close to them could become their greatest danger. If you believe in raising awareness about intimate partner violence and want to help prevent another tragedy, please like this video, share it, and subscribe to our channel. Your support today could help save a life tomorrow. Jamani Nicole Parker was born into a family that loved her deeply, but like many families, they had their struggles. She grew up looking exactly like her mother, and everyone who knew them could see the resemblance immediately. But Jamani was determined to create her own path in life. She was a natural athlete who fell in love with basketball early on. Jamani wasn't just playing for fun, she was serious about the sport and had real talent on the court. Her teammates remember her as someone who never gave up, even when games got tough. She was the kind of player who would encourage everyone else to keep fighting, even when they were losing. But Jamani's biggest role wasn't as a basketball player or even as a student. Her most important job was being a big sister to her little brother. She didn't just love him, she protected him like he was her own child. Family members say she took that responsibility seriously, always making sure he was okay and trying to be a positive influence in his life. When it came time for college, Jamani chose Tennessee State University. Like most college students, she was trying to figure out how to pay for school and support herself. This is where her story takes a turn that her family wishes they had known about at the time. College was supposed to be the best time of Jamani's life. But reality hit hard when the bills started piling up. Tuition, rent, food, textbooks, everything cost more than she expected. Like millions of college students across America, Jamani was facing a choice that no 18-year-old should have to make. She looked everywhere for help. Financial aid wasn't enough. Student loans felt overwhelming. Part-time jobs at minimum wage wouldn't even cover her basic needs. The support that colleges promise students often doesn't exist when you need it most. Jamani felt stuck and desperate. Her family back in Milwaukee wanted to help, but they were dealing with their own money problems. They couldn't send her the hundreds of dollars she needed every month just to survive. Jamani didn't want to be a burden on the people she loved most. That's when Jamani made a decision that would change everything. She knew it went against everything her family had taught her. She knew they wouldn't approve, but she felt like she had no other choice. Jamani entered the adult entertainment industry. She started creating content on OnlyFans and working as an exotic dancer. At work, she wasn't Jamani Parker anymore. She became Miss Parker. This new identity gave her a way to separate her personal life from what she had to do to pay her bills. The transformation was dramatic. Ms. Parker was confident, independent, and in control. She built a fan base that stretched from Atlanta all the way to Tennessee. For the first time since starting college, Jamani had financial stability. She could pay her rent, buy groceries, and focus on her studies without constantly worrying about money. This work gave Jamani something most college students her age never experience: true independence. She didn't have to ask anyone for help. She didn't have to stress about whether she could afford textbooks or if she'd have to drop out of school. For a young woman who had always been the protector in her family, being able to take care of herself felt empowering, but her family was worried sick. They tried everything they could think of to protect her from what they saw as a dangerous path. They knew Jamani was smart and strong, but they also knew the risks that came with this type of work. The problem was, they couldn't offer her a better solution to her money problems. Jamani understood their concerns, but she felt like this was her only option. She believed she was making a smart business decision. She was young, she needed money, and this gave her both financial security and personal freedom. In her mind, it was temporary, just something to get her through college. What Jamani didn't know was that this decision would put her in the path of someone dangerous, someone who would see her independence as a threat and her success as something that needed to be controlled. What do you think about Jamani's choices? Were they justified given her circumstances? Let me know in the comments below. It was during this time in Tennessee that Jamani met the man who would ultimately end her life. His name was Lavelle Winton Jones, and he was 35 years old, 15 years older than Jamani. When you're 20 years old, a 35-year-old man can seem like he has all the answers. He's been through college, he's had jobs, he's experienced life in ways you haven't yet. For Jamani, who was still figuring out her place in the world, Lavelle appeared to offer something she had never experienced before: stability and maturity. Lavelle knew exactly what to say to a young woman like Jamani. He told her he was different from guys her own age. He said he was more mature, more understanding, more capable of giving her the love she deserved. He made her feel special, like she was the only woman who could understand him. This is how grooming works. It doesn't happen overnight. It's a slow process where an older person gains the trust of someone younger by making them feel chosen and special. Lavelle convinced Jamani that their age difference was actually a good thing. He said it meant he could take care of her in ways that boys her age never could. Jamani fell for it completely. She started talking about Lavelle often, telling friends how different he was from other men she had dated. She believed she had found someone who truly understood her and accepted her for who she was. But there was one strange thing about their relationship. Lavelle wanted to keep it private. He told Jamani that their love was special and didn't need to be shared with the world. He said other people wouldn't understand their connection because of the age difference. Jamani thought this was romantic, like they had their own secret world together. Looking back now, this secrecy was a major red flag. Healthy relationships don't need to be hidden. When someone insists on keeping a relationship secret, it's usually because they know something about it is wrong. Despite keeping their relationship mostly private, Jamani couldn't help but share her happiness on social media sometimes. She would post about having someone special in her life, about feeling loved and cared for. Her friends could see she was happy, even if they didn't know much about the man making her feel that way. But there were warning signs that Jamani either didn't see or chose to ignore. Lavelle had a criminal history. He had been arrested multiple times for various charges, including drug possession and evading arrest. This wasn't a man who had his life together the way he pretended to. More importantly, Lavelle was deeply insecure. While Jamani saw her work as Miss Parker as a way to gain independence and financial stability, Lavelle saw it as a threat. He couldn't handle the fact that other men were paying attention to his girlfriend. He couldn't deal with the fact that Jamani was successful and independent. This created a toxic combination. Jamani was a young woman who was finally feeling confident and in control of her life. She was making her own money, building her own success, and didn't need anyone to take care of her. But Lavelle was an older man who wanted to be in control. He wanted Jamani to need him, to depend on him. When you have a controlling person in a relationship with someone who values their independence, conflict is inevitable. Lavelle's insecurity about Jamani's work grew stronger over time. He couldn't handle that she was successful without him. He couldn't accept that she had a life and career that didn't revolve around him. Jamani thought she had found love with a mature man who accepted her choices. In reality, she had gotten involved with someone who saw her success as a personal attack on his masculinity. Someone who believed that if he couldn't control her, then no one should have her. The age gap that Jamani thought was a sign of maturity was actually a sign of predatory behavior. Lavelle had targeted a young woman who was vulnerable and convinced her that his control was actually love. This dangerous combination of Jamani's growing independence and Lavelle's increasing insecurity was building toward a deadly conclusion. On the morning of July 14th, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers employees were doing their regular work in the area. These were men who knew the Greenway well. They had worked there many times before and were familiar with the usual sights and sounds of the location. But that morning they discovered something that would haunt them forever. There, lying on the trail, was a young woman. She wasn't moving. She wasn't breathing. And there was blood. The woman had been shot once in the head. It was a single gunshot wound, but it was fatal. The employees immediately called 911, and within minutes, the quiet Greenway was filled with police cars, ambulances, and emergency responders. The victim was rushed to the hospital, but it was too late. Despite the efforts of medical professionals, she was pronounced dead. The young woman who had been found on the trail was 20-year-old Jamani Parker. News of the shooting spread quickly through the Nashville community. People couldn't believe that something so violent had happened in such a peaceful place. The Alta Lake Greenway had always been considered safe. Parents let their children play there. People walked their dogs there alone. Elderly couples took evening strolls there. But now, everything had changed. Residents reported feeling uneasy about visiting the area. The place that had once brought them peace now reminded them of violence and death.
I couldn't imagine walking out here with my children and seeing something like that.
A U.S. Army Corps of Engineer employee found Parker. She was taken to the hospital where she died.
Some people said they could feel a dark energy there, knowing that a young woman's life had ended so tragically on those trails. The questions started immediately. What was Jamani doing at the Greenway that morning? Did she go there willingly, or was she forced? Was this a random crime, or did someone specifically target her? And most importantly, who would be willing to commit murder in such an open public space? The location of the crime was particularly puzzling to investigators. The Alta Lake Greenway isn't hidden or secluded. It's a public trail where people regularly walk and exercise. Anyone could have seen what happened. Anyone could have been a witness. It seemed like an incredibly risky place to commit a murder. This raised even more questions about Jamani's final hours. How did she end up there? Was she meeting someone she trusted? Did she think she was going there for a different reason? The answers to these questions would be crucial to solving her murder. Within hours of discovering Jamani's body, the Nashville Metro Police Department launched a full homicide investigation. Detectives arrived at the scene and began the careful process of collecting evidence and documenting everything they found. The crime scene team photographed every inch of the area where Jamani was found. They looked for shell casings, footprints, tire tracks, or anything else that might give them clues about what happened. They interviewed the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers employees who found her, trying to establish an exact timeline of events. The medical examiner's office conducted an autopsy on Jamani's body. Their findings confirmed what investigators already suspected. Jamani had died from a single gunshot wound to the head. The autopsy would also help determine other important details, like the time of death and the type of weapon used. Police began canvassing the neighborhood around the Greenway, knocking on doors and asking residents if they had seen or heard anything unusual. They checked for security cameras in the area that might have captured footage of Jamani or her killer. Every piece of information, no matter how small, could be important to solving the case. Initially, investigators had no clear suspects. Jamani's murder seemed random and senseless. Who would want to kill a 20-year-old college student? What motive could anyone have for taking her life? But as detectives looked deeper into Jamani's personal life, they began to focus on the people closest to her. They learned about her work as Miss Parker and started investigating whether that might have put her in danger. They also discovered her relationship with Lavelle Winton Jones. The 15-year age gap between Jamani and Lavelle immediately caught investigators' attention. They began looking into Lavelle's background and discovered he had a criminal history. He had been arrested multiple times on various charges, including drug possession and evading arrest. Even more interesting to investigators was the fact that Lavelle was already in jail when they started focusing on him as a suspect. He had been arrested on July 26th, just 12 days after Jamani's murder, on unrelated charges. This meant he was locked up while detectives were building their case against him. For 2 months, Lavelle sat in jail on those other charges while police continued their investigation into Jamani's death. During this time, detectives were gathering evidence, interviewing witnesses, and building a case that would eventually lead to murder charges. The investigation was thorough and methodical. Police knew they would only get one chance to prosecute Jamani's killer, so they had to make sure they had all the evidence they needed before moving forward with charges. What state or country are you watching from? Have you ever heard of a case like this in your area? On September 26, 2024, more than 2 months after Jamani Parker's murder, justice finally began to move forward. Lavelle Winton Jones was served with a first-degree murder indictment while sitting in his jail cell. This wasn't a surprise arrest. Lavelle had been locked up since July 26th on those other criminal charges, drug possession and evading arrest among them. But now the charges against him had become much more serious. He was officially accused of killing his 20-year-old girlfriend.
Tracking crime, a man has been indicted for the murder of his girlfriend. Lavelle Winton Jones is charged with first-degree murder, accused of shooting and killing his girlfriend, Jamani Parker. This happened back on July 14th at a home on Dodson Chapel Road here in Nashville. Winston Jones is behind bars. He's been there since July 26th for unrelated charges, including drug possession and evading arrest.
First-degree murder is the most serious charge you can face in Tennessee. It means prosecutors believe Lavelle planned Jamani's death ahead of time. This wasn't a crime of passion or an accident. According to the indictment, this was premeditated murder. When news of the indictment broke, the national community felt a mix of relief and sadness. Relief that someone was finally being held accountable for Jamani's death. Sadness that nothing could bring back the vibrant young woman whose life had been cut so short. Looking at Lavelle's past, a clear pattern emerges. This wasn't his first run-in with the law. His criminal record shows multiple arrests over the years for various offenses. Drug possession, evading arrest, and other charges paint a picture of someone who regularly broke the law and tried to avoid consequences. The fact that Lavelle was already in jail when he was charged with murder also tells us something important. Even after Jamani's death, he continued making bad choices that led to his arrest on other charges. This suggests someone who doesn't learn from consequences and continues engaging in risky, illegal behavior. For Jamani's family and friends, the indictment was an important step toward justice, but it also meant reliving the pain of losing her. They knew that a trial would bring more details about her final moments. Details that would be difficult to hear but necessary for getting justice. Even with Lavelle Winton Jones charged with first-degree murder, many questions about Jamani Parker's death remain unanswered. The most haunting question is simple: why did this happen? While the exact motive hasn't been revealed in court, experts in domestic violence can see clear warning signs in this case. The age gap between Jamani and Lavelle created an unequal power dynamic from the start. When a 35-year-old man pursues a 20-year-old woman, it's rarely about love. It's about control. Lavelle likely chose Jamani because she was young and vulnerable. College students facing financial pressure are easy targets for older men who promise stability and maturity. But what these men really want is someone they can manipulate and control. Jamani's work as Miss Parker probably made Lavelle's controlling tendencies worse. Here was his young girlfriend becoming successful and independent without needing him. She was making her own money, building her own fan base, and gaining confidence. For a controlling man, this independence feels like a threat. Jealousy was probably a major factor in this murder. Lovell couldn't handle that other men were paying attention to Jamani through her work. He couldn't accept that she had a life and career that didn't revolve around him. In his mind, if he couldn't control her, then no one should have her. As we reach the end of Jamani's story, I find myself sitting with the weight of what we've uncovered together. This isn't just another true crime case to dissect and move on from. This is about a young woman whose light was extinguished far too soon, and the ripple effects that continue to this day. If Jamani's story does nothing else, I hope it reminds us all to trust our instincts, to maintain our support networks, and to never be afraid to ask for help. I hope it reminds us to check on our friends, to really listen when someone shares concerns about their relationship, and to take those concerns seriously, especially when everything looks perfect from the outside. Justice for Jamani isn't just about what happens in a courtroom. It's about ensuring that her story continues to protect others, continues to educate, continues to remind us that behind every headline is a real person with real dreams that were cut short. If this case touched you like it did me, please subscribe and hit that notification bell. Share this video to help keep Jamani's memory alive and ensure her story reaches those who need to hear it. Together we can make sure that Jamani Parker's name is remembered not just for how she died, but for the change her story can create in the world. Rest in peace, Jamani. Your story matters and your life mattered.